That's the end of the old hag. The voice was unmistakably Sheila's. It was still dark outside, 4 a.m. What could Sheila be doing in the bathroom at such an early hour? She must be talking about me when she says old hag. Terrified, I quickly returned to bed. It was a good thing I woke up just then. Otherwise, I would have fallen into Sheila's trap. I never thought Sheila would go that far. I think realizing her plan was where her luck ran out. I'm Amelia Weston, 65 years old. I live a peaceful life with my husband Randy, who retired last year. Technically, our 32-year-old son, Michael, also lives with us, but he seems busy with work and play. He's hardly ever home, just comes back to sleep. It's worrisome that he hasn't experienced doing household chores even in his 30s, so I've suggested he move out on his own a few times, but he refused, saying, "Why? I only sleep here. It's a waste to pay rent." Michael, always out having fun. You were so much more responsible at his age. I complained to Randy, who just chuckled. Well, having many friends is a good thing. I suppose, but with this pace, marriage seems far off for him. Randy agreed, and we both laughed. However, by the end of that year, Michael introduced us to a woman saying he wanted to marry her. If he's made up his mind, we wouldn't object. After meeting her, the two quickly got married. Sheila, is 10 years younger than Michael, only 22. I was shocked by her age when Michael told us. At first, I thought she looked like a small animal. Short stature, big eyes, and quite adorable. More importantly, the love she showed while talking to Michael was evident. It seemed like she was the one pushing for the marriage. Michael is so lucky to be loved so much by Sheila. Our son being deeply loved by his partner is the best thing for a parent. I meant it in a good way, but Sheila glared at me. Amelia, stop making snide remarks. What? I've thought this for a while, but you are excessively caring towards Michael, overbearing even. Really? I never meant to be overbearing. Actually, when Michael was out and about, I just told him, don't bother others. Other than that, I left him be. I did ask for updates about dinner plans, but didn't interfere in his other activities, nor did I frequently contact him. Yet Sheila says I cared too much. He's your only son, and I get that he's precious to you, but once he's married to me, he became part of my family. I'm the one closest to him now. Well, that's comforting. I had heard from Michael beforehand that she was quite possessive, but I never imagined she would be jealous of me, his mother. I guess she really loves Michael. He might have married someone a bit peculiar, but she's a good person. I reassured myself, thinking, they're newlyweds, they'll settle down in time. Randy and I even laughed it off, thinking it was sweet. However, even after a year, then 2, Sheila never let her guard down. At dinner, she always sat next to Michael, and she never left his side, not even for a second when they were out. It must be hard for Michael. I wonder what will happen when they have kids. Randy and I were genuinely concerned. 3 years after Michael and Sheila got married, Randy passed away. He went so suddenly, even in his 60s. It was incredibly lonely, but friends and neighbors often checked in on me. Thanks to them, I recovered faster than I expected. Concerned about me living alone in the big house, Michael started visiting more often. But it was only about 3 times a year. I don't think that's too often. But someone wasn't amused by this. Sheila. I get that you're lonely since Randy's gone, but don't drag us into it. I never once asked him to come. It's great when he visits, but I've never forced him. I told Sheila just that. What? Stop playing the victim, acting all lonely on purpose. Aren't you ashamed to be so dependent on your son at your age? Dependent? And don't you even think about moving in with us. You'll disrupt our newlywed life. I couldn't keep quiet after hearing this. When Sheila went to take a shower, I called Michael aside. Could you please talk to Sheila? It hurts to always be painted as the bad guy. The bad guy? You don't know? When I relayed everything Sheila told me, Michael was genuinely shocked. Did Sheila really do that? Yes, she did. I get tired too, and I don't want things to get awkward between you two. You both should head back to your home soon. Michael paused for a moment, then replied, All right, we'll leave in another 2 or 3 days. Considering Sheila's attitude towards me, I wish they would leave today, but I accepted and replied, Okay, I understand. That evening at dinner, Michael made a shocking suggestion. Mom, why don't you move closer to us? What? We had just talked about this. What was Michael thinking? Seeing me flustered, Michael began to explain. You're still active and strong now, but you're not getting any younger, Mom. I worry about you living alone. Michael. I felt Sheila's glaring eyes on me, but I chose to ignore them. Thank you. I appreciate the sentiment, but I can't leave this house. It holds memories of my time with Randy. Besides, I have plenty of people who can help if I need it. Michael seemed a bit unsatisfied with my response. I get where you're coming from, Mom. I'll think about it some more. You should too. Yes, thank you. Touched by Michael's unexpected concern, I drifted off to sleep that night. The next morning, I woke up and saw that it was only 4 a.m. It was still pitch dark outside. I got out of bed to use the restroom. Huh? While walking down the hallway, I heard a noise. What could it be at this hour? Curious and a bit cautious, I followed the sound. It was coming from the bathroom. Peeking gently into the bathroom, I saw a silhouette and a light of a mobile phone in the darkness. Then I heard a faint voice saying, "This is the end of the old hag." That mocking laughter was unmistakably Sheila's. What could she be doing in the bathroom at this hour? She must have been referring to me as the old hag. Scared, I quickly returned to my room and got into bed. 2 hours later at 6 a.m., driven by curiosity, I went back to the bathroom and then bumped into Sheila. Oh, Emily! Good morning! Good morning. You're up early. She usually wouldn't rise until breakfast was ready. Noticing my suspicion, Sheila gave a breezy laugh. I'm leaving tomorrow, so I thought I'd clean the place today as a thank you for letting me stay. Thanks, but you really don't have to. No, it's the least I can do. Oh, please don't go into the bathroom now. I'm cleaning it. Feeling the pressure from Sheila's assertiveness, I just nodded. For the entire day, I was kept away from the bathroom on Sheila's orders. After dinner, while tidying up, Sheila quietly approached. Emily, I'll take it from here. You can go take a shower. But why? She had never offered to help before, and now this? It puzzled me more than pleased. Just relax. How about soaking in the bathtub? I've prepared it for you, Sheila said with a broad grin. Michael even chimed in. Wow, Sheila's being so kind, and laughed. However, seeing that I hesitated, Sheila grabbed my hand and led me to the bathroom. Look, I prepared aromatic candles for you. Oh, how beautiful. Several aromatic candles adorned the dimmed bathroom. Their faint glow looked magical. Just hop in like this without turning on the lights. But the ambience reduces the relaxation from the aroma, she said and left wishing, enjoy your bath. Am I overthinking? Is this just Sheila being nice? Lost in thought, my eyes suddenly caught sight of the bathtub, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. What is this? I instinctively turned on the bathroom light, and there it was, clear as day. The bathtub was filled with a black liquid. Bath salt? But I've never seen this color before. There's no way I'm getting into that bath, that color. Sheila's actions are concerning. Feeling uneasy, I quietly stepped out of the bathroom. Looking around, only Michael was in the living room. I discreetly approached Michael. Michael, where's Sheila? She went out. Seemed in a good mood. This is my chance. Can you come with me for a sec? I took Michael back to the bathroom. Look at this. Whoa, that's a wild color, right? I don't really want to get in it, but you went through all this effort. It'd be bad just to take a shower, wouldn't it? Michael nodded. Yeah. Then I'll go first. Wait, what? It's probably just bath salt, but with this color, it's hard to get in. If I prove it doesn't stain the skin, you'll feel relieved, right, Mom? I gratefully accepted Michael's offer. When I went back to the kitchen alone, the dishes were still piled in the sink. I wonder where Sheila went. As I was rolling up my sleeves to wash the dishes, I heard a noise from the entrance. Sheila, who had just returned home, saw me and exclaimed, Emily, why aren't you in the bath? Well, Michael said he wanted to go first. As we spoke, a shout came from the bathroom. Sheila rushed into the bathroom with a panicked expression. I followed right behind her. Michael, are you okay? As Sheila flung open the bathroom door, Michael was there, rinsing him off with the shower. Sheila, what is this? It smells so bad. Oh, come on, just close the door. We'll talk when I'm out. After being scolded by Michael, Sheila closed the door with a downtrodden look.
So, what was that all about?
After finishing his shower, Michael confronted Sheila.
Well, it's not exactly. It's not a bath salt, is it? That thing smelled terrible. I feel like the smell is still there.
I'm sorry.
So, what's with the black stuff?
Sheila, with a pale face, didn't answer and looked down.
Sheila!
Upon hearing her name, Sheila shuddered. She hesitantly replied, "It's squid ink."
What?
"That black stuff, it's squid ink." Both Michael and I exchanged surprised looks. "Sheila, why would you use squid ink?" "I thought it might be healthy," Sheila said, avoiding our eyes. Michael glared at Sheila.
"Then you try getting in now."
"I'd rather not." Sheila's words from this morning echo in my head. A suspicion suddenly arises within me. Could it be because I mentioned I'm allergic to squid? Sheila froze at my words. It seems I was right on the mark. Come to think of it, I told Sheila about my squid allergy in our casual chat the day before yesterday. Knowing my allergy, Sheila prepared a bathtub filled with squid ink. My head ached at the thought of such a bizarre idea.
What's the deal with that? Is this some sort of cruel joke?
It's not what you think. I just wanted to help Amelia relax. Sheila buried her face in her hands and began to cry. Is she thinking that crying will solve this? But I won't let it slide. So this was the old hag thing you were talking about?
What are you talking about?
Wait, Amelia. Sheila tried to stop me, her tears pausing, but I continued on. I heard what you said in the bathroom around 4 this morning. You were awake, Amelia? Sheila's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth.
This is clear act of malice after all.
But Michael always favors you. He's always worried about you. I was just so jealous.
Sheila tried to deflect with a barrage of excuses. Basically, she was just jealous as always. Michael sighed heavily, rubbing his forehead.
I was skeptical when I heard from Mom, but it seems her story was true.
What?
Sheila stared at us, her face pale.
What did you tell Michael, Amelia?
I was dumbfounded by her audacity. Blaming me after what she's done? How foolish can she be? I'm sure Michael felt the same, looking at Sheila with disbelief.
That's enough. You've never been one to reflect on your actions. I'm done.
Michael!
I smile spread across Sheila's face, perhaps thinking she was forgiven. But in the next moment, Michael's words shattered that.
Let's get a divorce.
What?
Sheila stood still, a frozen smile on her face.
Wait, Michael, why? How did it come to this? This doesn't make any sense.
It makes perfect sense. You tried to hurt Mom. Do you even understand what you've done?
Sheila paused for a moment, but soon spoke up.
But in the end, Amelia didn't go in. It was just an attempt, so I'm innocent.
Michael shook his head at Sheila's protest.
Do you really think it's that simple? It was only an attempt because Mom noticed, and I hate people who scheme behind the scenes.
That's cruel.
Sheila rushed over to Michael and clutched at his shirt, but he quickly pushed her away.
So you're choosing Amelia over me?
I wish she'd stop playing the victim. Seeing Michael not responding, clearly annoyed, I spoke up. I can't stand to watch this, Sheila. Sheila glared sharply at me. Did Michael ever compare us? Did he even ever belittle me in comparison to you in cooking or household chores?
Well, no.
At least from Michael, I've only ever heard good things about you. He must have truly cared for you. Sheila glanced at Michael, who nodded without looking up.
Yes, I never once saw you as a replacement for Mom, and I never compared. I genuinely liked you, Sheila. But it's over now. Trying to hurt Mom with lies, it's just malicious. It could have been disastrous,
Michael said with finality. Sheila's face turned bright red as she trembled with anger.
How could you both accuse me like this? It's unfair.
It seemed like talking to her was pointless. We decided to call Sheila's parents and ask them to come and pick her up. When they arrived, she was still yelling,
"This isn't over!"
But they took her away, almost dragging her. Later, a meeting was held with Sheila's parents present. Luckily, they were reasonable people. After I explained the situation, they looked pale and apologized profusely. Yet they seemed overly indulgent with their daughter and pleaded in unison,
"Please don't divorce her."
Apparently, Sheila was deeply infatuated with Michael, and they were worried about what she might do if they split.
"We promise we'll ensure this doesn't happen again."
Sheila remained silent, looking down. I could tell that Sheila genuinely liked Michael. Perhaps that's why she acted out of jealousy towards me. A little resentment is one thing, but after this incident, I can't just forgive and forget. I'm a parent too. I understand how you both feel, but did you really listen? One wrong move and I might not be here now. Sheila's parents looked up and gave a wry smile.
That's a bit exaggerated. We admit our daughter did something foolish, but it wasn't that severe.
Allergies are not a joke. It's not just a prank. Sheila knew about my allergy and still acted out. She probably did it because she was upset I might live near Michael. When I looked at Sheila, our eyes met. She quickly looked away. She knew exactly what would have happened if I had gotten into that bathtub.
I feel the same as my mother. I can't go back to how things were with Sheila. I'll always be reminded of this incident,
Michael said, looking at Sheila.
I'd rather break up now before I get more disappointed in her.
Sheila burst into tears again.
Give me a chance. We might be able to work things out.
It's impossible. What if we have kids and you get jealous of them? The mere thought terrifies me.
Michael apologized deeply to Sheila's parents.
Please, divorce.
Sheila's parents seemed taken aback, but they probably realized reconciliation was impossible after seeing our firm stance. They began to persuade their daughter. Still, Sheila refused to accept the divorce.
If you go that far, I'll demand a larger settlement. Are you ready to pay a huge amount? Stop it! Sheila, just give up.
Ignoring her parents, her hair disheveled, she shouted,
No, I won't let go. What about the compensation? Can you afford it?
We wouldn't backtrack on the divorce just because of a demand for compensation. Is she so confused that she doesn't even get that? Most importantly, we haven't done anything to warrant such a demand. On what grounds would you demand extra compensation?
Infidelity, perhaps?
Making up lies won't work in your favor. If you play that game, we can play too. Realizing my determination, Sheila's parents stepped in hurriedly. Seems they judged that a conversation was impossible.
We'll persuade her to agree to the divorce.
Thank you. And so, our conversation with Sheila ended. The last time we saw Sheila, she looked pitiable, with her hair and face disheveled. I couldn't sense any of the charm she once had. Thanks to the efforts of Sheila's parents, the divorce went through. Relieved, Michael and I sighed. She might not have been a bad person, but she wasn't a good one either. Michael, you've always had bad luck with women. We laughed it off. By the way, Sheila moved back to her parents' home and now lives under their watchful eye. She tried everything from self-improvement to working at nightclubs, all to get back together with Michael. Because of that, she spent too much and is now chased by debts. I do feel a bit sorry thinking about her parents. Michael and I started living together again. He seems to have a wide circle of friends as always and goes out often. However, he comes home earlier than before and has become more consistent with his communication.
I need to start taking life a bit more seriously.
That's what he said. He's back to being single, so maybe he's been doing some soul searching. He's even started to chip in with household chores. As for me, with the help of those around me, I'm living a peaceful life just like before. Michael's divorce was unexpected, but thanks to him helping around the house, I've had more time for myself. Even at this age, I'm thinking about picking up a new hobby, and I've been talking about it with my friends. I want to enjoy the rest of my life a bit more before Randy comes to take me away.
Oh, welcome home. Huh? When I returned home from work, the person who was there was my ex-husband, who disappeared 3 years ago. You're always late. Making your husband wait? Man, I'm starving. Is dinner ready yet? As if it was perfectly normal, my ex-husband barged into my house and brazenly made these comments. In my mind, memories from 3 years ago were resurfacing. The image of my ex-husband who dumped all the household chores on me, shouted at me unfairly, stood me up on our wedding anniversary trip and disappeared. And now, he was right before my eyes. The man I despised from the bottom of my heart was now right in front of me. The voice that came out of my mouth was surprisingly cold. Who are you? Huh? He was just staring at me, looking surprised. My name is Hazel. I'm turning 30 this year. These days, I lead a peaceful life as a company employee, but I have a past. That is about my husband Steve, whom I married when I was 25. I met Steve through a friend's introduction. He, a salesperson, had a manly character, the exact opposite of my quiet and reserved self. I felt something that I didn't have in myself, and was drawn to him. So we started dating. In the second year of dating, I accepted a marriage proposal from Steve. After we registered our marriage, we started our married life in an apartment that my parents gave us as a wedding gift. Everything was fine until then. After getting married, Steve's attitude changed drastically. During our dating, he used to speak kindly to me and gave me presents. But after marriage, he stopped doing all that. On top of that, even though we both worked, he made me do all the housework. He left his dirty laundry all over the place, left trash scattered around, and wouldn't even thank me for preparing meals. He even refused to do minor chores like taking out the trash. After living with him for about a month, I reached my limit and decided to talk to Steve one day. "Hey Steve, we're both working. Can't you help a little with the housework?" Then Steve let out a sigh, as if he was tired.
You know we're married, right, Hazel?
Yeah, but
It's common sense that the wife does the housework after marriage.
I couldn't hide my surprise at Steve's outrageous words. That's not true. These days it's common for both parties to share the workload.
What? You're trying to make your husband work at home too? You're such a nagging wife.
A nagging wife?
If you don't want to be called that, you better do your job properly.
With that, Steve started watching TV. I couldn't say anything and could only continue doing the housework. A year passed since our marriage, and I got completely used to doing all the housework by myself. Steve started saying,
I'm busy with work.
and coming home late, and even working on weekends. There were days when I realized we hadn't had a decent conversation for 2 weeks. One day, when he happened to come home early, I hesitantly started a conversation with him. "Hey, Steve, are you still busy with work?"
Yeah, kind of.
"You've been coming home after midnight recently, and you don't seem to have any days off. Maybe it's better if you change your job."
Stay out of my business.
Steve suddenly yelled, surprising me and making me step back in shock. I'm sorry. I just worry about your health."
You don't need to say unnecessary things. Leave me.
From that point on, Steve started a pattern of returning home late, sleeping, then leaving early in the morning. We hadn't done anything together for months, like going out on weekends. At this rate, our relationship will fall apart. I have to do something. I was filled with feelings similar to anxiety. As I was racking my brains, I came up with a plan. I asked him as he returned home, "Hey, Steve, isn't our anniversary during the upcoming holidays?"
Yeah, I guess.
He replied gruffly as he removed his tie. Not discouraged, I proposed, "Keep that day free. Let's go on a trip together."
A trip?
"Yes, wouldn't it be nice? I'll cover the costs. Please?"
I see.
Steve thought about it for a while, then finally agreed.
All right, I'll keep the day free.
"That's great. I'll plan everything." And so Steve and I decided to go on a trip for our anniversary. I hoped this trip could rekindle our bond that had been gradually fading. With this in mind, I researched thoroughly and made our travel arrangements. A few weeks later, the day of the trip arrived. Steve hadn't returned home since he went to work the day before. Our departure was scheduled for 10 a.m., and time was quickly running out. I called him repeatedly in a panic, but I couldn't reach him. Finally, in the afternoon, Steve called. "Hello? We're supposed to go on a trip today, right? Where are you?" I asked.
Sorry. Work is running late.
"We have a check-in time. We should leave soon."
Can you go ahead and check in for us? I'll catch up.
"Really? You're actually coming, right?"
I told you I would. Bye.
The call ended abruptly, and I was left dumbfounded. The check-in time was approaching, and I needed to leave immediately. I really wanted to check in with Steve and explore the area together after arriving. But despite my thoughts, I headed to our destination alone. When I checked into the hotel, they seemed surprised to see me alone. Naturally, as I'd made a reservation for 2, I explained that my husband would be arriving later, and was then shown to our room. Outside the window, it had started to rain, as if reflecting my feelings. For a while, I stayed in, waiting for Steve's arrival. But even after 1 hour, 2 hours, he didn't show up. Worse yet, he didn't even call. At this rate, the dinner reservation we had made would go by. After several unsuccessful attempts to call Steve, I was only connected to voicemail. In the end, I swallowed my embarrassment and had them make me a dinner for one, which I ate alone. The meal was lavishly prepared with spirit, but no matter what I tasted, I couldn't find its flavor. My vision blurred repeatedly with tears. When asked by the hotel staff what to do with the cake adorned with a happy anniversary plate, all I could say was, "Please discard it." That day, I ended up staying at my travel destination alone. Although I had a sightseeing tour planned for the next day, I canceled it and hurried home. At that time, I thought something might have happened to Steve. "I'm home. Steve, are you back?" Entering the house, the room was silent, with no sign of anyone. As I dropped my luggage and glanced at the dining table, something had been placed there. It was a divorce paper, signed by Steve, and our wedding ring. What is this? What is going on? I searched for a letter, but found nothing. Looking around the house, all his belongings were gone, and it was clear that they had been moved out. I was so stunned that all I could do was sit down on the spot. When I came to my senses, I immediately contacted my mother-in-law. She lived far away, and we had only met a few times, but she was a kind woman who treated me kindly. When I explained the situation, my mother-in-law was also astounded. There was no report from him, and he didn't seem to have come to his parents' house. When I called Steve's office after the holiday, I was told a shocking fact.
Mr. Smith resigned last month.
What?
We've been trying to reach him too, but we haven't been able to get through since yesterday. Could you please tell him to contact us as soon as possible?
I ended my call with Steve's workplace in a daze. Next, I pulled out my cell phone and called Steve. But all I heard from the phone was, "The number you dialed is currently not in use." And so, Steve vanished abruptly one day. After going through various processes, I submitted the signed divorce paper and forcibly ended our married life. Time passed, and about 3 years have gone by. I have remarried and am now living a peaceful life. Of course, I was initially distraught, but now I hardly ever think about my ex-husband. It's true what they say, time heals all wounds. As usual, when I came home alone after work, I noticed something. The lights in the house were on. That's odd. Did I forget to turn off the lights this morning? As I reached for the doorknob, I noticed that the front door was unlocked. What's more, there was a pair of ragged men's sneakers that I didn't recognize at the entrance. A wave of tension ran through me, and I was about to pull out my cell phone to call the police. There appeared a familiar face at the entrance.
"Oh, welcome home, Hazel."
What? The person standing there was none other than Steve, my vanished ex-husband. I was surprised and speechless. Without paying any attention to me, Steve brazenly said,
"You're late coming home as usual. You've kept your husband waiting. I'm hungry. Is dinner ready yet?"
In my mind, the memories from 3 years ago came flooding back. The audacity of Steve, unloading all the household chores on me, as if it was my duty, yelling at me unreasonably, standing me up on our wedding anniversary trip, and then just disappearing off the face of the earth. Now he is standing right in front of me. The man I hate from the bottom of my heart is now right in front of me. The voice that escaped from my mouth was surprisingly icy. "Who are you?"
"Huh?"
Steve, taken aback, is staring at me. Returning his gaze sharply, I said, "Leave now or I'll call the cops."
"Whoa, wait a minute. You can't tell me you've forgotten your husband's face."
He approaches with a smug grin. Upon closer inspection, he's put on weight, let his hair and beard grow out, and looks utterly unkempt compared to 3 years ago. Holding back my growing disgust, I retorted without mercy, Stay back. What do you mean by husband?
Come on, we're married, aren't we? You haven't forgotten just because we haven't seen each other for a while, have you?
What are you talking about? I filed for divorce a long time ago. We're strangers. At that, Steve's face looked like he had been struck by lightning. His eyes wide open and his mouth agape.
Why would you do such a thing?
You left divorce papers signed by yourself, didn't you?
What? You took it seriously? Did you really submit it?
I glared at the flustered Steve with a disgusted look. Is that a problem?
Of course it's a problem. I didn't intend to divorce at all.
What?
I thought you would wait for me. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it.
My patience had run out with Steve, who was playing the victim. What do you mean? I thought you would wait for me? After all, it was you who abandoned everything 3 years ago to move in with your mistress, wasn't it? When I blurted that out, Steve once again looked astonished. Soon after he disappeared, I hired a private investigator to locate him. Half a year after he left, the investigator found him, and the report I received was beyond imagination. About 6 months before he disappeared, he had been having an affair with a worker at his workplace. Apparently, their relationship was an open secret at the office. In the end, he and the other woman quit their jobs and started living together in the neighboring state. Upon hearing this, I had immediately filed for divorce, my love and affection for him completely exhausted. I had been living, trying not to recall the past, yet now he appears before me, even having the audacity to barge into my house. I deeply regretted not having changed the locks.
No, Hazel, you've got it all wrong.
I retorted angrily to Steve's plea. What's there to misunderstand? I've gathered all the evidence through a PI. Go back to her.
That's not possible.
What?
We broke up. We've been fighting a lot recently. I don't care about her anymore, Hazel. You're the only one for me.
My ex-husband pathetically clinging to my arm. I shook him off, my face full of disgust. I've told you, you're not my husband. How dare you dictate to me, a stranger to you?
I only love you, right? Let's start over our married life. Let's go to the city hall now and reapply for our marriage certificate. Come on, let's get moving.
Steve tugs at my arm. This is hopeless. He's not understanding a word. Just as I take out my cell phone to call the police, the front door swings open.
Who might you be? Let go of her arm, please.
Steve, taken aback, slackens his grip. I instantly run towards the source of the voice.
What the? Who are you?
My husband.
What?
I cling to the arm of my returning husband. He gently soothes me. He addresses Steve in a low voice.
You're Steve Smith, right? Hazel's ex-husband. Yes, that's me. But you? Her husband?
Stunned Steve doesn't comprehend the situation, so I lay it out for him. I've been remarried for a while now. That's why I've been telling you that you're a stranger. My new husband, John Collins, is a colleague from work. Apparently, he has been interested in me since we joined the company. At first, he gave up because I was married. But once he learned of my divorce, he started to make his move. At first, I was wary of men and didn't accept his feelings. But as I got to know John's earnest and sincere character, I gradually let him in. Upon hearing my circumstances, John looked me in the eyes and said,
I will never leave you alone, Hazel. I promise to protect you for the rest of my life. Will you please marry me?
Tearfully, I accepted his proposal, and I have been moving forward, forgetting the past.
Hazel, got remarried with another man?
Steve gawks at John and me.
Once you understand, could you kindly leave?
John's stern face makes Steve recoil. As Steve tries to flee towards the entrance, I stop him. Hold it right there. He looks back at us, trembling with fear. You're going to be paying alimony. It's not beyond the statute of limitations yet, so you will pay for your infidelity.
I'm not working now. I don't have any money.
I couldn't care less. If you don't pay, I'll take you to court. Remember that. With that, my husband next to me also glares at Steve.
You should know full well what happens when you upset her, right? I understand. I'm sorry.
With that, he runs off with his tail between his legs. In the quiet room, I apologize to my husband. I'm sorry about all this. I never thought he would show up after all this time.
It's okay. It must have shocked you too, Hazel. From now on, let me know if something happens. I'll protect you with everything I've got.
Embraced by my husband, I savored the happiness that was. Later on, it seems Steve returned to his parents' home. My former mother-in-law contacted me and agreed to pay the alimony in one lump sum. According to her, Steve will now work off his debt to her by tolling away on their family farm. I do hope the proud and selfish Steve changes his ways and works honestly. But I never want to be involved with him again. As for me, learning from this experience, I moved to a new apartment. In fact, I recently found out that I am pregnant with my current husband, who is truly happy about my pregnancy. I'm sure we'll be able to build a happy family.
I returned home after spending an extended 2 months at my parents' house following the birth of my baby. But what awaited me there was a situation I couldn't believe. "You and I are divorced. Please leave this house." Unbeknownst to me, my husband had filed for divorce while I was away. Another woman had already made herself at home, claiming my space. Even my mother-in-law took their side, erasing me from the picture. They treated our newly born daughter as if she were an inconvenience, without even seeing her once. In an instant, I was pushed out of their lives. But I know one thing: their future is anything but bright. My name is Cecily, and I'm 32 years old. I have been married to my husband for 3 years. Currently, I'm 9 months pregnant, with 2 months left until my due date. Meanwhile, my husband Gail is having an ongoing affair. How did I find out about his infidelity? It happened due to a series of coincidences. One day, a little after my pregnancy was confirmed, my usually busy husband forgot his mobile phone at home. I was debating whether to call him at work when a notification popped up on the lock screen. Looking forward to our date today, seeing the incoming message, I let out an involuntary shout. "What is this?" The message left no room for doubt. He was cheating. I knew my husband's passcode. It's the debut date of his favorite artist. That piece of information was my saving grace. I unlocked the phone and opened the messaging app. The conversation with his affair partner was pinned to the top, signaling her importance to him. The woman's name seemed to be Rilana, and there they were, exchanging love notes on a daily basis. Looking back through the chat history, their relationship started a year ago. Apparently, they first met on a dating app. Somewhere along the line, it escalated into something extraordinary. I was so shocked, my hand trembled holding my phone. "Gail, how could you?" My emotions are in turmoil, swinging between sadness and disbelief. The thought of divorce flashes across my mind, but I'm pregnant with Gail's child. It's unthinkable that this child could grow up without a father. But can I really turn a blind eye to Gail's affair? What if he continues this relationship even after our child is born? The worst-case scenario sends shivers down my spine. Overwhelmed by severe nausea, I hurriedly rushed to the bathroom. I have been suffering from morning sickness lately, spending most days lying down. Unable to eat properly, I'm mentally and emotionally drained. I don't have the energy to confront Gail about his affair. Raising my voice could negatively affect the baby. After much thought, I decide to ignore Gail's cheating. Of course, I'm anxious. But more than that, I want to prioritize our unborn child. Once the baby's here, I'm sure Gail will change. I desperately tell myself to calm down. Months have passed, and I'm nearing my due date. But nothing has changed about Gail continuing his relationship with the other woman. Tonight, he came home after 11 p.m. I was already on edge and I couldn't help but raise my voice. Gail, isn't it too late? I'm almost at full term, you know. He responded with an annoyed tone. What can I do? I have work, you know. That may be true, but even cleaning the bathroom is hard with this belly. Could you help out a little? Oh, come on, stop nagging. You get to relax at home all day, right? I'm the one working here. What's that supposed to mean? It's the truth. You know what? Maybe you should go back to your parents' house early. It would be less stressful for both of us. Are you serious? Gail, wait a minute. He walked away right in the middle of our conversation, heading straight for the bathroom. Lately, our talks have been nothing but half-hearted or limited to essential things like errands. When was the last time we had a real full conversation? I can't even remember. That's how rare our meaningful dialogues had become. Maybe he really can't stand me anymore. Ever since that day, he's been coming home even later. So there I was doing all the house chores, grocery shopping, and even getting ready for childbirth all by myself. I also kept collecting evidence of his affair. If his attitude doesn't change after the baby is born, divorce might be the only option left. I hired a private investigator to gather evidence and even look into his mistress Rilana. According to their report, Rilana had multiple affairs besides my husband. On top of that, she was pregnant. Is the child his or someone else's? Either way, this would serve as important evidence. So I kept collecting proof, preparing for the worst-case scenario. Then, one day, as my due date approached, I decided to go back to my parents' house to give birth. I was in the middle of packing when my mom called. Hello, Cecily. How are you feeling? Oh, Mom, the baby's kicking like crazy today. It seems like they can't wait to come out. That's great to hear. So will Gail be coming with you? What should we prepare for dinner? Well, what's wrong? I don't think Gail is coming. What? You're not planning to travel by train alone, are you, with luggage? My mom's concern was valid. It's a 3-hour train ride from where we live to my parents' house. Ideally, my husband would drive me, but he recently told me to go alone. My mother, raising her voice, interrogated me further. Cecily, did something happen with Gail? It's unthinkable for a pregnant woman in her last trimester to take a train alone. Gail must be busy. I'll be fine on my own. But what if something happens? You can't just get off a moving train. I'll manage. My checkups have been fine, and I've been doing the grocery shopping by myself. Wait, you've been going shopping alone? Yeah. Continuing the conversation would only make me more suspicious. Digging myself into a deeper hole, I decided to swiftly wrap up the conversation and hung up the phone. Sorry, Mom, I'll call you back. Wait, Cecily! Looking forward to coming home. Bye! Though I felt guilty, I didn't answer my mom's return calls. That evening, my husband returned from work in a surprisingly foul mood. He stormed in, tossing his bag on the floor. As soon as he saw me, he started yelling. Hey, what's the deal? What did you tell your mom? What do you mean? Got a call from your mom today. Cecily seems to be struggling. You should support her more. Now, it looks like I'm not doing anything. Oh, well, turns out my mother felt sorry for me and had called Gail. My decision not to take her call backfired. Gail's face turned red with anger, his teeth clenched tightly. As I was about to apologize, he cut me off. Enough. My mom is coming over starting tomorrow. Your mom? Why? To make sure you don't mess things up. I don't need her thinking weird stuff about me. She'll take care of the house. Got it? But having her move in so suddenly, we would be walking on eggshells. What? Whose fault do you think this is? Just do what you're told and realize it's your fault, you idiot. He angrily clicked his tongue. Every time I tried to explain, he shouted, Shut up. This is your fault. In the end, we never had a proper discussion. The next day, his mother arrived. She had clearly been poisoned against me by my husband, and she continued to berate me. I never thought Cecily would be so selfish. You should be grateful just to be married to Gail. You don't understand. There is a reason. What don't I understand? Because of you, my son has a bad image in your mother's eyes. Marrying a stupid wife like you was the mistake of a lifetime. I feel sorry for Gail. After that day, life at home became even more strained. Conversations with my husband dwindled to nearly nothing, and I was left alone with my mother-in-law during the day. She didn't help with household chores and only criticized my actions. Unable to tolerate this, I decided to temporarily move back to my parents' home earlier than planned to give birth. When I mentioned going home, my husband casually said, "Do whatever you want." My mother-in-law added fuel to the fire by saying, "Don't come back if it's not a boy." Yes, I had purposely not found out the baby's gender. I wanted it to be a surprise. Yet, to hear such a thing, all I hoped for was a healthy baby. Once back at my parents' home, I spent the remaining time of my pregnancy in peace. A month later, my daughter arrived a little ahead of schedule. Weighing over 105 ounces, I named her Clara. She was so adorable, I thought. Even if she's a girl, my mother-in-law would surely love her. Once my husband saw his own child, I was sure he would stop his foolish affair. But neither he nor my mother-in-law came to visit Clara, not during my hospital stay or even after we were discharged. I tried calling, and instead of my husband, my mother-in-law yelled at me, "Can't even have a son." My parents were livid. Though they tried contacting my husband Gail multiple times, he never responded. My parents told me, "You don't have to go back to such a terrible husband." My husband, who wouldn't even come to see his daughter, and the struggles of new motherhood were taking a toll on me. I was approaching my physical and mental limits. I was supposed to go back after the 1-month checkup, but fear kept me at my parents' home, caring for Clara. What should I do next? Even if I go back home, Gail won't visit Clara. If I return, he probably won't help with raising her either. That's when I began seriously considering divorce. Planning to make a final decision, I decided to return home once. A few days later, I left Clara with my parents and went back to my husband's home after 2 months. But what I found there was beyond belief. Wait, why is she here? My favorite sofa was occupied by Rilana, my husband's mistress, and in her arms, a newborn baby. That's when I remembered that Rilana was also pregnant. Mother-in-law was cooing. "Boys really are adorable, aren't they?" Upon noticing me, she opened her mouth sarcastically. "Oh, Cecily, what brings you here?" Mother-in-law? Mother-in-law, drop it, would you? I have already set up a new daughter-in-law. A new daughter-in-law? Yes, Gil's girlfriend. Rilana gave birth to a boy, and she's far better than you. I was speechless, hearing mother-in-law say that so blatantly. My husband looked at me and laughed as if mocking me. "We are already divorced. I'm living with her now, so you better leave." "Divorced? What are you talking about? I haven't signed any divorce papers." "I did it for you. Be grateful. After all, you're the one to blame for not giving birth to a boy." Rage boiled up in me like dancing flames. Any love I had for my husband was gone. I held back my urge to yell and told him, "Fine, I'll accept the divorce, but is that child really yours?" What are you talking about?" "Do you guys even know your affair partner there, Rilana? Was it? She's been involved with many other men." "What? How do you know that?" "Because I knew all about Gail's cheating. I ignored it, thinking he would change after Clara was born. Clearly, I was foolish." My husband looked shocked. He probably never thinking his affair was out in the open. He was visibly disturbed by how easily I accepted the divorce. I coldly told him, "Divorcing you is a wish come true for me, but in return, stay out of my life. Clara and I will live on our own. And let's forget you were even a father. Oh, and I expect full alimony in the divorce settlement. Got it? That includes from Rilana." "Hold on. What do you mean Rilana has other partners? Is this true?" Yes, it's true. I had a detective look into it. Why not get a DNA test if you're so doubtful? You might find some interesting results, including who the real father is. Is this true, Rilana? Rilana looked away uncomfortably at his questioning. Answer me. Well, that's what you get for a relationship that started on a dating app. Unable to bear it any longer, my husband turned to me and began to plead. Oh, wait, hold on. If that's the case, I'm fine raising a child that's ours. I don't have any obligation to raise someone else's kid. Shut up. Trying to act like a father now? You've got to be kidding me. Everyone in the room shuddered at my raised voice. You never lifted a finger to help me while I was struggling through pregnancy. Don't even start with your nonsense. I have completely fallen out of love with you. I can't stand the sight of you. Don't ever show your face in front of me and my child again. Amidst my own heavy breathing, I hurriedly packed up my belongings. Ignoring my husband's calls, I walked out of the house. Later, I contacted a lawyer to claim alimony in the divorce court against my ex-husband and his affair partner. I also demanded child support from him and made sure he paid it all at once. After some time, I received news from Gail about the DNA test results. As expected, the child born from Rilana wasn't his. Confronted with these results, she had this to say: all I needed was someone with money. Turns out she never loved Gail. As soon as the truth came out, Rilana took the child and disappeared. Mother-in-law was furious about the whole situation. She's demanding Gail to bring me back, and he has been flooding my phone with messages. My mom wants you to come back. She's throwing fits every day, wanting a grandchild. Help me out. I promise I'll never cheat again. Please, forgive me. His messages, full of empty promises, left me unimpressed. Naturally, I have no intention of going back. Whatever their reasons, I have decided never to see them again. Now, I am back at my parents' home, struggling through the early stages of motherhood with their support. It's tough, but every day, I find joy in my daughter's growth. There may come a day when my daughter will miss having a father, but I hope to shower her with so much love that it will erase any sadness she might feel. My name is Mary, and I'm 45 years old. I live with my husband Richard, who is the same age as me. We met in college and started dating soon after. My first impression of Richard was that he was serious and honest. Though he was a man of few words, he really cared about his family. I was drawn to Richard's kindness and knew I wanted to spend my life with him. It turns out, Richard felt the same way. We even promised to marry each other while still in college. Though some might call it young love, we continued dating even after graduating. After starting our careers, we felt the same about each other and decided to get married. To our delight, we had a child shortly after getting married. Our daughter Sarah, who is turning 21 this year, graduated from vocational school and has started working. Sarah's workplace is close enough to commute from home, but she wanted to live on her own. So she's now living alone not far from her workplace. With Sarah moved out, Richard and I have been enjoying life, just the two of us, for the first time in a while. Life was pretty good, but there was one thing that bothered us. It was the presence of my sister-in-law, Susan. Susan, who is 38, divorced William last year after being married to him for 15 years. The reason for their divorce was Susan's infidelity. Susan may look like an average woman, but she has a weakness for men. It seems she had cheated on William multiple times over their 15-year marriage. William had seemingly turned a blind eye to Susan's cheating, but her actions escalated and he couldn't bear it anymore. He had been collecting evidence of her affairs. With this evidence, William confronted Susan with divorce papers. Through lawyers, Susan didn't have a chance. William even demanded a large sum of alimony from Susan's lover David, and that led to the divorce. But what surprised me the most was what happened next. Unbelievably, Susan decided to remarry, this time with David. We found out about Susan's remarriage when we received the wedding invitation. I knew about Susan's infidelity and it was messing with my head. Susan, are you really going through with this wedding? Everyone knows you are remarrying David. You sure about that?
Susan is trying to make a fresh start. We should be happy for her.
Richard has always doted on Susan, so he thinks her remarrying David is cause for celebration. What about William, who got cheated on? Poor guy. And Susan has even more issues to deal with, issues that will later come crashing down on me.
Hello, Susan?
One day, Richard gets a call. It's Susan.
Yeah, what? Are you okay? We can't tell what's going on over the phone. Come over now.
Richard sounded frantic over the phone after hanging up. He looked deeply concerned.
Susan was crying on the phone. She seemed too distraught to explain, so I invited her over. Mary, I would like you to be there too.
Richard's serious expression told me this wasn't something to take lightly. Got it. What could be happening? I felt uneasy, wondering what could have happened to Susan, who is supposed to be getting married in 2 months. About an hour after hanging up, Susan arrives at our place sweating bullets. You could tell she was really stressed out. Welcome, come on in. Richard, Mary, help me. As soon as she enters the house, it's clear that Susan is panicking.
Hey, calm down.
Richard sees the frantic Susan on the sofa and offers her some coffee. Susan gulps down the coffee and lets out a deep sigh, trying to calm herself. What's got you so worked up? As I look into Susan's face, she starts to break down in tears. Seeing this, Richard is shocked and rushes to console her.
It's okay. Can you tell us what is going on?
Yeah, okay. After shedding some tears, Susan drinks another cup of coffee before she starts talking. The thing is, I need your advice about the upcoming wedding.
Wait, are you canceling the wedding? Why on earth would you do that?
Richard interrupts. No, that's not it. Well, it's not it. I mean, what are you trying to say? It seems like Susan is trying to figure out how to explain. She hangs her head and remains silent for a while.
You have to tell us, or we can't help. If there's something we can do, we will.
Encouraged by Richard, Susan finally speaks. The truth is, I may not be able to afford the wedding and the honeymoon. What? All that panic and she's worried about money? I'm standing there flabbergasted when Richard turns to Susan.
So, let me get this straight. You're saying the wedding and the trip might be off because you can't secure the funds?
Yeah.
You work, don't you, Susan? And doesn't David have any savings?
It's not that we don't have any. It's just that we spent it all on our divorces. We had to pay William alimony, so we can't afford to pay for the wedding or the trip. I am at a loss for words, incredulous that Susan would speak so casually about such a foolish decision.
So, the point of discussion is?
Oh, we were hoping to borrow the money for the wedding and the trip from you too. Richard listens to Susan and furrows his brow. Clearly, he finds this whole situation ridiculous as well. After a sigh, he speaks.
Oh, is that all? Well, we have some savings. We can lend you that much.
What? You're lending it to them? My head starts to spin. What is he talking about?
Of course, it would be heartless to refuse Susan, right? You don't have to pay us back.
He continues.
Mary, you said you have been saving for our parents' care, right? We can lend them the money from that.
Richard proposes to lend the money from my savings, not his. I can't believe what I'm hearing. No, that money is for my parents. I can't just give it away. I can't believe this. Susan breaks down, crying again. Richard rushes to comfort her. What's with this kid?
What's wrong with you not helping Susan in a time like this? How much do you need, Susan?
It's $30,000 total. What? $30,000? My parents are already over 75. Though they're still healthy, they will need care soon. Being an only child, I have been saving for this purpose. Even after having children, I never quit my job and have saved up money alongside educational funds. I have no desire to use this money for Susan.
We'll be using Mary's $30,000 saving for Susan's wedding and honeymoon.
I told you. That money's for my parents' care. As I continue to adamantly refuse, Richard finally loses his temper.
Not helping Susan is crazy. Those who have should give.
Then why don't you give it?
I bought this house. I don't have savings.
The house was bought with both our salaries and on a mortgage. That's no reason.
What about Sarah's educational expenses?
We split that too, and by the way, we have split all living expenses so far. Did you forget? At a loss for words, Richard clenches his fist. His face beat red. I suddenly realized that Richard hadn't been saving any money at all. We had been keeping our finances separate since we got married, so I had no idea.
Just give me the money, no questions asked. If you don't get it, then forget it.
Richard spat out those words and stormed off to his room. I was left alone with Susan in the living room, not knowing what to do. Mary, do we really have to go without the money? She looked at me with teary eyes, but that won't work on me. Sorry, you'll have to figure it out yourselves. I avoided further conversation to keep things from getting complicated. An awkward silence filled the room. Susan seemed to be waiting for me to give in, showing no signs of leaving. After some time, Richard finally emerged from his room, holding a piece of paper.
I printed out divorce papers. If you won't help Susan financially, then let's divorce. I've already signed them. It's up to you now, Mary.
Richard was out of breath, clearly riled up.
If we divorce, you will lose this house, Mary. You think a 45-year-old divorcee can easily find a place to live?
Richard was looking down on me, confident I wouldn't go through with it. Seeing Richard's arrogance and Susan's irresponsibility, something inside me snapped. You want to divorce because I won't give Susan money? Don't be ridiculous. Enough of making a fool out of me. I snatched the divorce papers from Richard. I'll go through with the divorce. Why don't you pay Susan the $30,000? You love her so much. Maybe Richard thought I would apologize. My yelling left him frozen in surprise. Ignoring Richard, I quickly packed essentials and left the house. I had nowhere to go, but I took a chance and called Sarah. Hello? Hey, how are you? Luckily, Sarah picked up right away. Rare to get a call from you. What's up? Well, I had a big fight with Richard. If it's not too much trouble, can I stay at your place for the night? Of course! Stay as long as you like. Oh, could you make some of your buffalo chicken wings? It's been a while. Sarah loves the buffalo chicken wings I make. Thanks, I'll make a ton of them. I headed to the supermarket to buy ingredients and then drove to Sarah's apartment. After a 30-minute drive, I arrived at Sarah's place. As I started cooking in the kitchen, Sarah awkwardly approached me from behind. What did Dad say to make you consider leaving home? Not wanting to worry Sarah, I replied vaguely. Well, just some stuff. Did Mom notice something? I froze at Sarah's words. What are you talking about? Never mind. Sarah quickly looked away flustered. I had an instinct that I needed to know what Sarah was getting at. Actually, I've been thinking about divorcing Dad. He said some awful things. Do you know something about it too? The moment the word divorce left my mouth, Sarah's eyes widened. She started talking like a dam had burst. Finally, it's out. Dad is having an affair. I saw him going into a hotel with a younger woman. It made my skin crawl, and that's why I moved out. Sarah's revelation was beyond surprising. I couldn't believe what she was saying and was stunned. What? An affair? Huh? Wait, it wasn't about that? Sarah's face turned pale. She realized she had spoken impulsively. It wasn't about that, but it sounds like something I should know. Can you tell me more? I'm not going to get any more hurt at this point. Well, if Mom says it's okay, I'll talk. Sarah took a seat and started talking about Richard's infidelity. Just before I graduated, I saw Dad when I was out with friends at a pub. He was walking with a woman I didn't recognize. So I followed them and... Sarah had goosebumps on her arms. Seeing your own father's infidelity is not something anyone would want to witness. Her revulsion was understandable. Do you have any proof? Yeah, I was so disgusted and angry I took photos of Dad entering the hotel. When Sarah showed me the pictures, there was Richard arm in arm with a much younger, beautiful woman. Wow, that's really unsettling. I'm sorry I didn't catch on sooner. Sarah shook her head. Actually, I was blackmailed for money by Susan. When I refused, Richard told me to divorce him. If I have this kind of evidence, I'll be the one filing for divorce. Sarah had been keeping this from me all along. She must have been going through a lot. I felt terrible. Now that I understood why Sarah had moved out, could you send me those pictures? I have the divorce papers signed by Richard. I'll make sure to get alimony before the divorce is finalized. I'll go with you. I want to give Dad a piece of my mind one last time. Feeling empowered, knowing Sarah was on my side, I finally grasped the full picture. Turns out Richard wasn't blaming Susan for her affair because he was cheating too. The moment I realized that, my disdain for him grew exponentially. That night, we drowned our sorrows in a heap of buffalo chicken wings and a good deal of venting about Richard. Far from being upset, Sarah seemed almost pleased at the idea of Richard no longer being in our lives. Then the weekend rolled around. Sarah and I went over to where Richard was staying.
So, you have finally come back.
We returned to find our home in shambles. Richard, never one for housework, hadn't bothered to clean or cook. Half-eaten instant noodles and snack wrappers were strewn all over the place. We're back, but what a mess. How can anyone live like this? Richard was visibly annoyed by Sarah's comment.
How dare you talk to your parent like that?
Well, you won't be my parent much longer, will you? Richard seemed even more irritated at this. I have already told Sarah. I have filled out the divorce papers. All that's left is to file them.
You really think you can actually divorce me?
I do, but first, there's something I need to confirm with you, Richard. Sarah and I sat down on the sofa. The table in front of us was dirty, which only made me feel more uncomfortable.
Confirm what?
Take a look at this. I showed Richard a picture Sarah had sent me. As he looked at the screen on my phone, his face went wide.
This is,
The picture showed Richard entering a hotel with another woman, leaving no room for excuses.
That woman works for me. She wasn't feeling well and we were just taking a break. You're not going to assume this is cheating, are you?
Assume? I took the photo right before entering the hotel. She was laughing. Didn't seem sick to me. Richard tried to wriggle his way out with a lame excuse, but we weren't having it. I'll give you the divorce you want, but you will have to pay the alimony decided in court.
I can't afford to pay alimony. I have to give money to Susan too.
My disappointment in Richard, who was still prioritizing Susan, even now reached new heights. Then work hard to afford both. From now on, we'll talk through lawyers, so don't contact us again. I don't need a cheating dad. Please get out of my sight. We were just about to leave the house when we heard,
Wait, you've got it all wrong. Please wait.
Richard came chasing after us, desperate.
Think about it, Mary. If we get divorced, you're gonna lose the house, right? You would just be causing yourself trouble.
I felt not an ounce of love for Richard, who couldn't even master an apology to the very end. It's your punishment for planning to use my money on Susan and for belittling me. I don't need this house. Mom, you can stay at my apartment for a while. Leaving a tearful Richard behind, we walked out of the house. What a relief. Me too. The thought that we wouldn't have to deal with Richard and Susan anymore lifted our spirits. Eventually, I was able to finalize the divorce. Thanks to Sarah capturing those incriminating photos, I also secured a decent settlement in court. Broke and penniless, Richard could no longer provide for Susan. As a result, Susan and David were unable to get married. They didn't just stop there, they broke up their engagement after constant fights about money. Susan blamed her inability to remarry on Richard. Infatuated with Susan, Richard felt responsible and they now live together. However, due to paying me the settlement, Richard is also broke. In the end, they moved in with their parents, but I had already filled them in on the situation, so they got kicked out. People should learn not to depend on others' money and start living on their own. As for me, I decided to move back into my parents' home with Sarah. Fortunately, both of my parents are still healthy, so I used my saved caregiving funds to renovate our family home. The fully renovated house is incredibly comfortable, and both my parents and Sarah are thrilled. I plan to keep working hard to maintain this simple yet fulfilling life.
After 10 years of marriage, my relationship with my husband had become just a facade. During this time, I had to be hospitalized for a certain reason. My husband, prioritizing his affair, smirked and said, "Stay in the hospital forever." I thought our marriage was probably over, but soon after, an event gave me a glimmer of hope. My name is Lily, and I'm 38. After graduating from nursing school, I work as a nurse at a university hospital near my new home. My husband's name is Ethan. We met when I was 26, thanks to an introduction by my father. I never really cared about romance during my student years and never had a boyfriend. Even after becoming a working adult, I was engrossed in my job. My concerned father introduced me to someone thinking about my future.
Lily, there's a young man, a son of a friend of mine. I'd like you to meet him.
On my 26th birthday, my father hesitantly approached me with this. "So you want me to have dinner with this guy you're introducing?"
Yes, but he's a really good person. So his son must be a good guy too.
"I'm fine, Dad. I'm only 26.
If you keep saying that, you'll be 30 in no time. You never seem interested in these things."
After some persistent urging from my father, I reluctantly agreed to the dinner. But it's not like I didn't want to get married. If the guy was nice, I'd consider the possibility of marriage. At dinner, he took the initiative to converse. Like me, he wasn't into flashy hobbies and enjoyed reading and hiking. I thought I could have a peaceful married life with him. After dating for a year, we got married when I was 27. The first 3 years were peaceful without any issues. We both worked, but we spent weekends together, dining out and getting along well. However, around our 4th year of marriage, Ethan began to change. The trigger was likely the death of my father-in-law, who introduced us. He passed away about 5 years into our marriage. Father-in-law always treated me like his own daughter. His death was devastating, and I cried for days. One day, Ethan brought up a topic.
Lily, starting next month, Mom will be living with us.
What? Why all of a sudden?
Isn't it obvious? With Dad gone, we can't leave Mom alone.
But she's still healthy and can take care of herself.
That doesn't matter. If something happens to Mom, can you take responsibility?
I was caught off guard as he sternly said this.
Sorry, but in our family, Mom comes before you. She wants to live with us, and we can't ignore that.
What about my feelings?
As a wife, you should listen to your husband. Or do you want divorce?
Divorce. Just like that. The word divorce from Ethan without hesitation terrified me. Why would he mention divorce so casually? We had always lived happily as a couple. Why prioritize his mother over me so easily? Although I felt anger, I couldn't retort. I couldn't divorce easily, thinking of my father who was overjoyed at our marriage. Moreover, I knew my mother-in-law disliked me. She wasn't pleased with father-in-law's affection for me or our living alone in our new home. After father-in-law's death, her attitude towards me seemed more apparent. Now, living with her was inevitable. I spent many heavy-hearted days. The next month, mother-in-law moved into our condo. From day one, she said to me, "Lily, I'll be educating you from now on." Educating? Yes, I'll teach you to be the perfect wife for Ethan. But we've been living just fine. Don't talk back, just listen to what I say as our daughter-in-law. From that point on, mother-in-law's harassment escalated. She constantly criticized the meals I prepared and watched me like a hawk while I cleaned. Every task I did was met with complaints. Even I was getting worn out from this daily torment. A year into living with mother-in-law, I finally opened up to Ethan. After he returned from work, I broached the subject. "Ethan, about mother-in-law." "Don't tell me you're gonna badmouth her." "It's not about bad-mouthing, it's just hard being criticized daily about meals and being told how to clean." "She's just trying to help you, isn't she?" But I hesitated and Ethan sighed deeply. The old me would have backed down seeing his attitude, but I felt like I was breaking. Thinking so, I confessed my feelings to him once again. I pleaded, "Please, Ethan, I can't keep living like this. I know mother-in-law dislikes me, but I just want to be treated like a normal family member." "What's that supposed to mean? Don't make it sound like it's all mom's fault." "I'm not. I'll try to improve based on mother-in-law's feedback, please." Ugh, so annoying. If you have a problem, talk to mom directly. It's none of my business. With that, Ethan left the living room grumbling. I was heartbroken to see him side with mother-in-law so easily. After that, my weekdays were consumed by work, and at home, I constantly faced mother-in-law's complaints. I became a robot just doing as I was told. Ethan started coming home less and less. He'd return in the early hours, leave early on Saturdays, and come back late on Sundays. Our conversations were minimal, and there was no intimacy. This life continued for about 4 years, and our relationship no longer felt like a marriage. Then, one day, Ethan and mother-in-law were out, and I was alone at home. I noticed Ethan's tablet on the table. He usually carries this with him. Did he forget it today? The tablet is something Ethan always carries with him. He usually carries it with him every time he goes out, but it seems he forgot about it that day. Out of curiosity, I opened it up. It wasn't locked. It seemed to be synced with Ethan's mobile phone. I saw emails, WhatsApp, photo folders, and other apps. A thought crossed my mind. Ethan always said he was working late. But where did he go on his days off? Upon reflection, several things seemed off. His constant phone usage, his cold demeanor, his frequent absences. I hadn't thought about it before because of mother-in-law's presence, but once I started, the oddities about Ethan became clearer. Could it be? The worst possible scenario crosses my mind. I found myself searching his tablet for evidence. Minutes later, my suspicions were confirmed. There were numerous WhatsApp messages with a woman named Mia. "Today was fun. I want to be lovey-dovey with you again, Ethan." "Me too. I hate going back to a home with a useless wife and annoying mom." "Why don't you leave that wife of yours?" "I want to be with you, Ethan." "I want to be with you too, Mia. I'll leave her soon. Just wait a bit longer." Ethan's phone was filled with messages that were unexpectedly sweet, something I'd never expect from him. When I checked his photo gallery, There were multiple pictures of him with a woman I assumed was his mistress. Why? How could he? Cheating is just too cruel. I sent all the evidence to my own phone and took a moment to process everything. That's when I first considered divorce. Some might wonder why I hadn't thought of it sooner, but with all the issues with my mother-in-law, I was mentally drained. If I hadn't had some alone time today, I might never have discovered his affair. It was only because my mother-in-law was out that I found the evidence. From that day, I took action. I secretly visited a lawyer's office without telling Ethan or my mother-in-law and explained everything. After showing the evidence, the lawyer said, "With this, you can get a favorable divorce." 2 weeks after deciding on the divorce, everything was going smoothly until one day, I collapsed at work. After some tests, the doctor said it was due to exhaustion. They advised me to be hospitalized for a few days. Of all the times for this to happen, I was frustrated, but I knew I had to focus. I needed to get out of the hospital and proceed with the divorce. For now, I had no choice but to follow the doctor's orders. I called Ethan to bring me some essentials. After a few rings, he answered with an annoyed voice. "What do you want?" I collapsed at work and I have to be hospitalized for a bit. "You're in a hospital?" "Yes, I need you to bring me some clothes." Before I could finish, I heard Ethan laughing on the other end. At a loss for words, he declares calmly, "Why should I bother with that? I'm busy, you know." "I know you're busy, but I don't have anyone else to ask. Just buy something from the hospital store, and just so you know, I'm not paying a dime." "You can't be serious." "Just stay in the hospital forever. Bye." He hung up before I could say anything. I was livid. Even though his wife is hospitalized, he doesn't even bring a change of clothes? He must have thought I was just having fun. So much fun at the hospital. I won't let this go. I'll make him pay. During my hospital stay, I hired a detective to investigate Ethan. After being discharged, I didn't return to our condo. In the meantime, I stayed with a close colleague who rented an apartment near my workplace. According to the detective, Ethan was on a trip with his mistress. And my mother-in-law? She was enjoying her time alone in the condo. Like mother, like son. No one seemed to care about me. I'll continue with my plans, and when everything's ready, I'll initiate the divorce through my lawyer. The next day, during my lunch break, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. Had she finally realized I was out of the hospital? I didn't want to talk to her, but she kept calling. Reluctantly, I answered. "Hello? Lily, where are you? You've been discharged, right?" "Yes, I have." "Why?" "It's Ethan. He's been in an accident and taken to the hospital." "An accident?" Apparently, Ethan lied about the affair and told her he was on a trip with friends. My mother-in-law kept repeating he had an accident on his trip with friends. "You need to come to the hospital now." I had to go to the hospital? Ridiculous. Why should I worry about a man who had an accident on a cheating trip? I coldly told my mother-in-law, "I get the situation, but I'm not going to see him. He's a stranger to me now." "What?" "Didn't you hear? I said he's a stranger." "A stranger." "Wait, what are you saying? You're Ethan's wife. You're not strangers." Ignoring my words, mother-in-law kept complaining. I didn't hold back. "You might not know, but he was cheating on me." "What? Cheating? Ethan?" "Yes, all those overtime excuses were lies. He met his mistress almost every weekend. This trip, just another one of their getaways." "No way. Ethan cheated? He wouldn't." If you can't believe it, that's fine. But it's true. I'm already preparing for divorce, so goodbye. Wait, please. I hung up before mother-in-law could say anything more. I didn't contact Ethan and certainly didn't visit him in the hospital. A few days later, Ethan called. The moment I answered, he yelled, "Why didn't you come to see me?" I coldly replied, "Why? You know exactly why. You didn't visit me, yet you have the nerve to ask that?" "What do you mean?" "Did you enjoy your trip with Mia?" How do you know about Mia?" I could hear the tremor in Ethan's voice. I decided to take it slow. "You cheated, right?" "I know everything." He desperately tried to explain. "It was just a one-time thing. I wasn't serious. Please forgive me." No matter what he said, I had no intention of forgiving him. The humiliation from him and mother-in-law would never fade. Memories of the pain resurfaced, and anger welled up. I said it strongly, as if to clear up the resentment I had accumulated up until now. I lashed out. "You never helped with mother-in-law. You cheated and didn't even visit me. How could I forgive you now? I've lost all trust in you. Why didn't you visit? Stop playing games, always saying what's convenient for you." "It's not like that, Lily, please forgive me." "Shut up! We're nothing anymore. The divorce is in progress. I don't plan on having anything to do with you. Stay out of my life. I'll make sure you and your mistress pay. Be ready." I hung up and deleted his number. Later, with the help of a lawyer, Ethan and I divorced. He was at a significant disadvantage, so the divorce went smoothly. I demanded compensation in the divorce settlement. As a result, he and his mistress went into debt. Apparently, due to the accident's aftermath, Ethan became paralyzed from the waist down. When his mistress found out, she quickly left him. Now, Ethan, bound to a wheelchair, lives with mother-in-law. I heard they constantly argue, a strained relationship. As for me, I'm enjoying my life alone. I've received a hefty settlement from the divorce and plan to relax for a while. I feel bad for my parents, who were happy about our marriage, but I don't regret my decision. From now on, I want to live my life free from interference.
I know there are people who's been cheated on and got hurt from discovering that their partner wasn't loyal. But I believe my case is even worse. And that's because my husband was upfront that he was going to cheat before he even had an affair. Allow me to cheat just for a night, since my ex-girlfriend asked me to spend the night with her. That's what he said. When I responded with, "Fine," he was thrilled. "Thanks! Honesty is indeed the best policy when married." Well, just as my husband said, honesty is the best policy. So I decided to live my life honestly too, just like him. Whatever happens to him, it's not my business anymore. I am Catherine. My boyfriend, whom we'll call Bob, is pretty blunt and can't lie. Plus, he can't refuse anyone when asked a favor, so he's always happy to help out others. That's also what I loved about him. I thought that if I married him, we could be a couple that trusted each other and kept no secrets, which is why I decided to get married to him. One weekend, Bob solemnly said to me, "Catherine, you fell in love with my honest nature, right?" "Yes." "That and your inability to refuse a favor, your good-natured personality." Then Bob slowly pulled out a receipt from his wallet. "I wanted to be honest with you, Catherine. I went here after work yesterday." The receipt Bob showed me was from a strip club in Manhattan. The total bill, $1,000? My client insisted on going there, so I couldn't refuse. My boss left me and went home first, so I had no choice but to pay. This is a business expense, right? That's the problem. My company doesn't encourage going out with clients. Then you should have refused to go with them. Catherine, you know I can't say no if someone asks me, right? Other guys hide stuff like this from their wives, even when things like this happen. But I want to be always honest. Catherine, that's what you want too, right? Well, it's better than finding it out later. Exactly. I knew you'd say that, Catherine. Pleased with my reaction, Bob began to shop frequently and spent lavishly. Every time, he showed me a receipt and report his spending. Catherine, I saw the wallet I had been eyeing at a mall yesterday, so I went ahead and bought it. What? $500? You already have a wallet. Plus, that's of a high-end brand. I was just looking from outside the store window at first, but one of the staff noticed and lured me inside. They really pushed me to buy it, so I did. You can't spend so much, just out of impulse. But you know, I can't refuse when I get offered things. Right, Catherine? And then, the next day. Catherine, this is from yesterday's night out. Huh? Isn't that quite a lot? Actually, I ended up covering for my colleagues. What do you mean? When I invited them out, they said they were broke until their next paycheck. I couldn't just let them starve, could I? But DIL, we're also waiting for our paycheck, you know? We both work, and you have savings too, right? You know I can't say no when people rely on me. I can't say no when people rely on me. Bob emphasized that over and over, acting as though being honest meant he could do whatever. On another day, he came to me with a troubled expression. Catherine, is it okay if I go out this weekend? Sure. What's up? Actually, my ex-girlfriend called me saying she's going through a tough time and wanted to talk about it. What? Are you going to meet her alone? Yeah. She said it's something personal. Your ex-girlfriend. The one you showed me on social media the other day, right? Her name was Alice? That's right. She was married too, wasn't she? Don't you think it's strange for her to want to meet with someone who's married too? What, do you not trust me? If I had something to hide, I wouldn't be telling you honestly like this, would I? But don't worry. Besides, I already agreed on seeing her. What? Without even asking me? She came to me for help. How could I say no? Do you think I could ever do that? Fine. Even when meeting his ex-girlfriend Alice, Bob would tell me about it up front. I knew about Alice from before, but I was anxious about letting Bob see her, considering the fact that he can't say no when asked for a favor. And sure enough, my worries came true. Late that night, I got a text from Bob. Catherine, sorry, I only got the chance to text you now. Gosh, I was so worried about you. So, when are you coming home? You'll make the last train, right? Well, it seems I won't be able to come home tonight. You can't come home? Why? Alice, she seems troubled about her husband. She doesn't want to go home tonight. She said she's told her husband that she's staying at her friend's place. I'm a little confused. So you mean she wanted to spend the night with you from the very beginning? Yeah, I guess so. She just wanted to see me today and share her thoughts. She said she wanted to spend the night with me, just like old times. Like old times? You mean when you two were dating? Isn't that cheating? But it's just for tonight, which is why I'm telling you up front. Huh? Whether it's just for a night or not, that's still cheating. But isn't it better than me being sneaky about it? I'm only saying it to you because I am sincere, Catherine. How dare you? She said I was the only one that could help her. When asked like that, I can't say no. You understand that, right? Please, just forgive me this one time. Bob was asking me to accept his cheating. How insensitive of him. As I was at a loss for words, I heard a female voice from the other end of the line that sounded like Alice. Hey, Bob, can you end the call already? Catherine, hold on for a bit, Bob hastily said to me, then started talking to Alice. He must have been in such a hurry that he forgot to put himself on mute. I could clearly hear the conversation between Bob and Alice. Bob, can you really convince your wife? Yeah, just give me another second. She knows that I can't turn down people when asked for help, and that's what she loves about me. So as long as I'm upfront about things, she'll let anything slide. She's an idiot. Really? Gosh. She's pretty dumb, huh? Right? Once I get her approval, I can do anything I want. I can meet you as much as I want, as long as I tell her beforehand. I made a wise choice of picking a dumb woman, so I can be open with my affairs. You have to thank me, you know? Bob, you're so cunning. Yeah, even with money, as long as I have some excuse, she'll let me splurge as much as I want. I'll get you some designer stuff next time. Really? Are you sure? Sure. I'll just say, a rookie begged for it and I couldn't turn him down, and she'll be fine with it. I love you, Bob. I love you too, Alice. Then go on. Convince your silly wife. Quickly. Don't worry about it. I've got this. Holding the phone, my hand started trembling uncontrollably. This was Bob's true feelings. I have been fooled by him this whole time. As I realized this, my feelings for Bob faded away in an instant. Bob got back on the phone, unaware that I had heard it all. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Catherine. Alice said she doesn't want to go home tonight. That's fine. I was just thinking about how it's important to be honest with your partner in a relationship. You can do whatever you want, honey. Thanks, Catherine. I knew you'd understand, said Bob with a happy tone, before hanging up. Right after the call ended, I called someone else. After doing everything I had to do, I was finally able to go to sleep. Bob returned home in a good mood. Catherine, I'm back. Welcome back. I see you're in a good mood. Yeah, I was just appreciating how understanding you are. If I'd come home right away, I would have felt guilty towards Alice. But I hate lying to you, Catherine. That's why I think it was right to tell you the truth. It's important to always be honest about these things. Yes, indeed. Bob, will you continue to be honest with me forever? Of course. I could never lie or keep a secret from you, Catherine. I will tell you everything honestly, no matter what happens. I hope you keep your words, baby. Just as I said that, the doorbell rang. It looks like he's here. At those words, Bob asked, "Who's here?" Without a word, I invited the visitor into our house. A man entered our living room and immediately shouted at Bob upon seeing him. "You're the one Alice is cheating on me with, aren't you?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" Right after Bob admitted that he was cheating on me, I texted Alice's husband. "Your wife is having an affair with my husband." It seemed that Alice's husband had suspected something was off, and so he believed me without a doubt. And so he requested to speak with my husband once, and I gave him our address. Bob was flustered as he glanced at Alice's husband and me. To him, Alice's husband said, "I heard from your wife that you were with Alice last night. What's going on? Catherine said that?" Bob seemed to finally grasp the situation. He started making excuses to Alice's husband. No. You've got it all wrong. It's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Yes. I was indeed with Alice last night, but it was just a casual hangout. Like a reunion. Nothing inappropriate happened. Without missing a beat, I chimed in. Bob, have you forgotten what you said earlier? You promised to be honest, right? You told me yesterday it's just for one night. Please forgive my affair with Alice. Didn't you? Upon hearing my words, Alice's husband became even more irate. I knew it! She was cheating on me. Bob probably realized that he couldn't get away with this, and he finally admitted to having an affair. Alice's husband was fuming, demanding for compensation as Bob repeatedly apologized. In the end, Bob had no choice but to swallow whatever conditions the man had thrown at him. Once Alice's husband had a written promise for compensation, he finally left. As soon as we were alone, Bob turned on me. Why the hell did you tell Alice's husband? Because you said we should always be honest, remember? It's not fair if I'm the only one that knows about your affair. Bob couldn't argue with that and suddenly became quiet. Just because not everyone is as understanding as you, Catherine. Anyway, what's done is done. We need to figure out how to pay off this compensation now. At this rate, we'll never be able to pay it off while maintaining our current lifestyle. He really overcharged us. Well, you had no right to refuse, did you? And it wasn't a situation where we could negotiate the amount, right? But if it's you and me, we can surely overcome this. Catherine, can you take on more work? Why should I? There's a limit to how much we can cut back on living expenses, and my company forbids having side jobs. I think the only option is for you to take on another job to pay off our compensation. That's not what I mean. I'm asking, why do I have to pay for what you did? Well, aren't we a married couple? Aren't we supposed to team up and overcome this together? Don't make me laugh. Why do I have to clean up after your mess? I am the one who got cheated on here. But you approved of me having an affair, didn't you? So you're also responsible to pay compensation. That's ridiculous. If anything, I'm the one who should be demanding alimony. You can't demand alimony while you're married to me. Yes, I can, because I have no intention of staying married to you. What? Why not? Don't you understand? Why don't you reflect on your actions? You used our money because you can't say no to people, and then you cheated on me. Do you think I'll let everything slide just because you don't hide them from me? I am tired of being with an idiot like you. I handed Bob the divorce papers I had prepared. Let's get divorced. Our marriage is over. What? But we've been doing well so far. You're the only one who thinks that. I've been keeping up with your crap and lied about my feelings all this time. From now on, I'm going to be true to my feelings. and live my own life. As you said, honesty is the best policy after all. My honest feelings right now are that I want to divorce you as soon as possible. That's it. Catherine, goodbye. Wishing you the best, Mr. Honest Cheater. My bags were already packed. I said everything I wanted to say, grabbed my bags, and left the house. This house will also eventually be subject to property division. For now, I just don't want to see Bob's face anymore. With all this evidence of his affair, I'm sure I'll be able to claim alimony without any problem. It might be nice to stay at a nice place somewhere for a few days while leisurely looking for a new home. Maybe Bob was at a loss for words, because he didn't say anything that day. The next day, as soon as I got to work, I got a call from Bob. Catherine, did you talk about me at your office too? After Bob declared that he was going to have an affair, it wasn't just Alice's husband that I reached out to. I had informed everyone about Bob's affair, his workplace, parents, and relatives, and even his friends. Yes, that's right. If you want to be so honest, it's best to let everyone else know the truth, not just me. At my words, he raised his voice more than ever before. Are you kidding me? There are things that you can and can't say, right? Oh, really? I had no idea you had such standards. So, telling me honestly that you're going to cheat on me, your wife, was a good thing to do by your standards, huh? Catherine, I was wrong. I am reflecting on my actions. Help me. I've been called to the executive office first thing in the morning, and they've decided to send me off to a remote area. Oh, wow. Really? With rumors of my affair circulating throughout the company, it doesn't look like I can work at the headquarters anymore. And I have to repay the damages on top of my salary plummeting. I can't make it without you. Well, you should have thought about my feelings more then. It's too late now. What the hell? I've even apologized to you already. You're partly to blame for me being sent to the countryside. You snitched on me, so I'm not paying you any damages. Oh, wow. I thought you couldn't turn down people by nature. I am asking you to pay alimony, please. You can't turn me down, can you? It depends on the situation, you know. Well, your foolish double standard got you into this. Basically, you brought your own self down. Unfortunately, I won't withdraw my claim for damages. This is something you're legally obligated to pay. You can't avoid it. Fine. I won't ask you for anything anymore. So, you're going to pay me? We're splitting our savings in half for property settlement. So don't touch my share. I get it. I've done a lot of favors for my friends up to now. If I ask around a bit, I'm sure there'll be plenty who lend me money. I doubt that. You cheated on me. Do you really think your friends would want to lend you money to pay for alimony? I'm not going to go into that much detail. I'm just going to tell them that I need to borrow money because I'm in a tight spot. Even if you don't mention it, everyone already knows. Did you tell my friends too? Well, being honest is your policy, right? Stop joking now! I guess I have no choice but to ask my mom. Your mom, huh? Don't tell me. You... Yes, of course. I told your parents everything too. I finally understood that being honest isn't always easy. I was so busy informing your workplace, friends, and parents about your affair, while you were out having fun with Alice. I'm screwed! It's all over now! I could hear Bob's despair from the other end of the phone. He was facing a future of living alone in the countryside, unable to rely on anyone, and spending his days repaying damages. All of this was the result of his own actions. He fooled around doing as he pleased, under his motto of being true to oneself. On the other hand, I met another man a few years later, and was now about to get remarried. My new partner is a person who isn't afraid of turning people down, and is always considerate of my feelings. It's the bare minimum. But now that I've broken up with Bob, I've finally realized the importance of having a partner that respects you. This time, it seems like I'll have a happy marriage.
You know, this house could sell for a lot right now. If you don't sell it, you're going to lose out. Let's sell the house and split the money in half. I couldn't help but blurt out, "What?" at Sophia's excited proposal. I noticed Sophia's face cloud over, but I stood my ground. This house is mine, and I have no intention of selling it, I declared. That's when Sophia started relentlessly harassing me. My name is Michelle. I had no particular desire to get married and was happily living with my mom at our family home. I used to live alone, but moved back after my dad passed away and left my mom all by herself. I was worried about leaving my elderly mom alone, but more than anything, it was heartbreaking to see her so lonely without dad. My mom never pressured me to get married. Whenever you find someone you love, that's good enough for me, she's always saying. I love my job and planned to dedicate my life to it, so marriage was low on my list of priorities. It was a big relief that mom was so understanding about my life choices. I have a brother named Cody. He's married to Sophia, which may be why mom never pressured me to marry. Then one day, mom went out for groceries and never came back. She left with a smile, only to collapse at the supermarket. By the time I rushed to the hospital after getting the call, mom was barely hanging on with no signs of consciousness.
Please be with her,
the doctor could only say. Fighting back panic, I called Cody and Sophia to let them know mom was critically ill. But Cody said he couldn't leave work, and Sophia, who was just at her house nearby, said if Cody wasn't going, she wouldn't either. With mom in critical condition and no one else by her side, I couldn't hold back the tears. Mom had always been kind to both Cody and Sophia. I watched this happen from the sidelines day in and day out. As much as they irritated me, the pain of losing mom overshadowed everything else. Mom, I'm right here with you. I gently held mom's unresponsive hand. To my surprise, she lightly gripped mine back. Could she still be alive? This flicker of hope was short-lived. Mom passed away. At the funeral, Cody took the role of the chief mourner. Though he cried having missed her passing, I couldn't forgive him for prioritizing work over mom when she was critically ill. And my resentment for Sophia, Cody's wife, intensified. She skipped the funeral saying she had to work. Sophia's job was just part-time at a checkout counter. She could have easily taken a leave for her mother-in-law's funeral, but she chose not to, which infuriated me. However, I knew mom wouldn't have wanted her death to cause friction between me, Cody, and Sophia. Biting back my anger, I attended the ceremony. As for the inheritance, with no will left, I decided to keep the house where I lived with mom. All of mom's hard-earned money went to Cody and Sophia, but I didn't mind. Mom's savings were more like her hobby, and I was content just preserving this house filled with memories. That was until even the house came under threat. A year after mom's passing, Cody and Sophia unexpectedly showed up. We barely kept in touch, mostly around memorial services. When I asked why the sudden visit, they requested to move in. Turns out, Sophia invested mom's inheritance in Forex and managed to accumulate a debt of $50,000.
Oh, we can't afford rent while repaying the debt,
Cody pleaded.
I know it's a lot to ask, but can we live here? Otherwise, Sophia and I might end up homeless.
Compared to Cody, who would practically beg me as if his life depended on it, Sophia, the root cause of our debt, simply said, "Pretty please?" Her expression was as if it was someone else's problem. I didn't like her attitude but couldn't abandon my own brother Cody. So I agreed. Initially, the cohabitation went smoothly. While Cody and I were at work, Sophia took care of household chores, saving us the time and effort, and for that, I was grateful. Sophia was also a good cook, which made meals something to look forward to. But Sophia continued her reckless spending habits. Before I knew it, she had brought home designer bags and started using the pricey lotions and moisturizers that even I had deemed too expensive. Every time Sophia spent a large sum of money, Cody would blow up, leading to a huge argument between them. And let me tell you, it was super awkward for me to be in the middle of all that. I couldn't help but wonder why Cody wouldn't divorce Sophia given these repetitive issues. Maybe there's something about marital bonds that I wouldn't understand since I'm not married. So I didn't say anything to Cody. Half grateful to Sophia and half exasperated, life went on until one day, the property value of our home skyrocketed. I started getting calls from all corners asking me to sell the house due to impending development. My answer? A hard no. I had no intention of parting with this house, which is filled with memories of my parents until the day I died. But Sophia's attitude took a 180. You know, we can get a good price for this house right now. Right? We would be fools not to sell. We should split the money 50-50. I couldn't help but blurt out, "What?" When I heard her say this, I was angry that Sophia had the audacity to refer to my precious home as this house and suggest selling it so casually. Then, splitting the money like it's no big deal, my feelings were half anger and half disbelief. This house is in my name. I have no intention of giving it away to anyone, including you, Sophia. But we need the money, Michelle. You know that, right? The near tearful expression on Sophia's face only added to my disbelief. The only reason we need money is that you have suffered huge losses in forex trading. When Mom passed away, she left a considerable inheritance for both you and Cody. I have zero intention of sharing any proceeds from selling this house with you. Upon hearing this, Sophia's face visibly changed color. Flushing red with a distorted expression, Sophia replied, "Fine, I get it." And with that, she walked away. I thought it was going to be awkward living with Sophia, but that concern turned out to be unnecessary. After that conversation, Sophia's nasty acts of harassment began. The first instance involved hamburger steak. Sophia, who is good at cooking, had made her specialty hamburger steak, a dish I also enjoyed. But the moment I took a bite, I felt something crunchy and immediately spit the food out onto a napkin. To my surprise, the hamburger steak was filled with eggshells. When I looked at Sophia in disbelief, "Is something wrong?" She just smiled and asked. As I cut into the remaining hamburger steak with a knife, sure enough, there were eggshells in it. "Sophia, I hate to bring this up after you have gone through the trouble of cooking, but it looks like there are a lot of eggshells in this." "What? Oh no, I'm so sorry. That wasn't intentional. We're out of ingredients and other things to eat too." I couldn't help but think she did it on purpose. "You did this on purpose, didn't you?" Sophia said, "I really didn't do it on purpose. It's terrible that you don't believe me," and began to cry softly. Just as this was happening, Cody came home, interrupting my attempt to explain. Sophia, still in tears, spun the story in her favor. Cody took Sophia's side, saying it wasn't intentional, and told me,
"Stop harassing my wife like that."
After that, Sophia stated that she didn't want to cook for me anymore and only cooked for herself and Cody. She also said she didn't want to do household chores for someone like me. She only cleaned the common areas like the living room and the kitchen, but stopped cleaning my room. I didn't care much about the chores. It was just like when I was living alone. I had only been spoiled by Sophia's help till now. However, I noticed something. The money I kept in my room was gradually disappearing. Convinced Sophia was the culprit, I confronted her. She then turned on the waterworks and said, "Michelle is treating me like a criminal even though I didn't do anything." And she looked to Cody for support. Cody, in his own way, wasn't helping either.
"If you keep harassing my wife, you're going to have to leave."
That's what he would say to me. It seemed like Sophia had told Cody a bunch of lies, making him believe I was the one harassing her. "Get out? This is my house," I said to Cody. "The freeloaders here are you and Sophia. You're the ones who should leave. What are you misunderstanding?" This led to a big fight between Cody and me. That night, lying in bed, I actually considered leaving. Wouldn't it be easier to leave rather than continue dealing with this daily torment? That's when I remembered Mom, who, despite her aching back, would carefully mop the hallways. The house was built by Walter, who worked so hard. We have to take good care of it, she used to say while making the house shine with her cleaning. As the image of my own mother flashed in my mind, I held back tears and thought to myself, I shouldn't be the one to leave, it should be Cody and Sophia. I acted quickly once I decided to kick them out. I went to an electronics store and bought several high-quality small security cameras. While Cody was at work and Sophia was out, I installed the cameras all around the house. I set them up to prove that Sophia was stealing my money and that I wasn't harassing her as a daughter-in-law. After a few days of recording, I reviewed the footage in my room. Sure enough, I had caught Sophia entering my room and taking money. But I had captured even more shocking things. That evening, I gathered Cody and Sophia in the living room. Sophia, being a drama queen, pretended to be scared of me. Cody, believing Sophia's side of the story, was giving me a cold stare. Ignoring their attitudes, I began to speak. Actually, I had security cameras installed in the house. My money has been disappearing, and I suspected Sophia was behind it, so I wanted proof. Here's the footage. I then played the video on my laptop showing Sophia entering my room and taking the money. The moment Sophia heard the word camera, her face turned pale. Cody, shocked by Sophia's behavior on the laptop, was speechless. The footage clearly showed Sophia as the one taking the money, but I wasn't done. I fast-forwarded the video, and there it was. Footage of Sophia entering the house arm in arm with an unknown man.
Wait, who is this guy?
Cody exclaimed while Sophia burst into tears. It was unmistakable that Sophia was cheating.
No, this isn't what it looks like. Michelle, did you fabricate this video? I have heard that video technology has advanced a lot recently.
I am not a video editor, and I can't create such high-quality fake videos, I responded. Engrossed in the footage of Sophia and the unknown man, Cody was aghast. Sophia, on the other hand,
Stop the video now!
Sophia screamed at me. Amidst this hellish atmosphere, I spoke clearly. Please, deal with the infidelity between yourselves. As for living here, I would like you to move out. I can't live with someone who takes money without permission and uses it for cheating. With a straight face, I paused the video. I hand Cody the SD card with the recorded data. Be out in a month and kick Sophia out immediately. I tell him. Cody, now back to his senses, starts yelling at Sophia. Later, their loud arguments fills the house. Take your fight somewhere else, I say. Cody moves the scene to a diner. Busy calling in the man Sophia cheated with and her parents, Cody sets the stage for divorce. I hear Sophia will be solely responsible for repaying the debts, and she even gets a payout from the divorce settlement. Sophia is of course taken back by her parents that night. Her parents had seen the video where I was robbed of my money and they handed me some cash.
I don't know if this is enough, but
they say. I accept it as a sort of restitution. Cody had the audacity to ask to stay in the house a little longer after the divorce. I refuse. There is no way I could forgive Cody, who was about to kick me out, trusting Sophia's words. This is the home Dad built and Mom lovingly maintained. I can't allow someone who allowed his wife to cheat and wanted to kick me out, the heir, to stay here. I gave you a month out of the last shred of sibling decency. Leave as soon as possible. I say. I didn't want Cody, who never valued this house and never believed me, to stay a second longer. Rejected by me, Cody leaves, and I have no idea what his life is like now. Cody and Sophia divorce, and her parents cover the divorce settlement in a lump sum. Cody manages to get the compensation from the man Sophia cheated with and rents a house far away. I hear that much. As for me, my days return to a peaceful calm without Cody and Sophia. The comfort of having the house to myself is unmatched. In the serene quiet filling the home, I gazed at a memorial photo. Facing my parents' picture, I wonder if this was the right thing to do. I murmur. The parents in the photo only offer me their smiles. It's lonely. But I feel they would approve of what I have done. I still get calls asking if I want to sell this house, but I have no intention of giving it to anyone until the day I die. Until my last breath, I vow to protect this home.